So, Rocket League just went free to play, which means there are a ton of new players. I just saw today the game hit 1.5 million users concurrently passing CSGO, which is pretty incredible. One thing about Rocket League is that it doesn't actually teach you much about how to play the game, and the default camera and controls in particular are criminally bad. They set you up to fail. So what I would like to do is talk about my camera and my controls and the decisions I made to get there, and what you can do to perfect what you have so that it works best for you. So the default camera that Rocket League ships with is absolutely terrible. You start extremely close in, you can't see the field. The controls for the camera really don't help you with the vision part of the game, which is actually extremely important. So this is my camera. You don't have to necessarily use this, but I would start here or somewhere similar compared to the default. This is a middle of the road camera. I think I took it from Squishy Muffins originally a few years ago. I don't know what he uses these days, but it's not too far, not too close. I feel like it's close enough that I can see where the ball hits on my car easily, but it's also farther away and with a field of view that's wide so I can see more of what's happening. So let's just go through these quickly. Number one, camera shake, turn it off. It's nifty, but it doesn't help you. It will throw off your touches a little bit, and you need every little bit of advantage you can get, or at least don't give yourself disadvantages. My field of view is at full. It makes it a little fisheye, but I want vision more than I want anything else. Distance, height, angle, these are all kind of preference, but that's where, how far back and up, like you can tweak these. This is my kind of Goldilocks zone. Stiffness is one people don't really talk about as much, but I recommend everybody go on 1.0 stiffness. This controls how far the camera moves as you go slower and faster, which is kind of a cool cinematic. Like as you speed up, the camera backs out a little bit, but practically it means you don't reliably have a position where your car is in your field of view. And at least for me, I found that I was struggling to hit the ball perfectly, especially in that moment where I'm accelerating up to full speed and not quite there yet. So I would do 1.0 here. Swivel is how fast your camera moves around. I think fast is good, but pick where you want it that you're comfortable. And transition's similar. Transition is the same thing, but for when you're switching between ball cam and not. I think you want it to be quick enough that you can respond to stuff. But I would probably customize that one to taste. Inverting is up to you. I have it on. So there's that. Start there, and you'll immediately feel probably some improvement. Next thing, it's easy win. I guess it's not that easy, but I changed my controls. The default controls, I think, are almost good, but what they don't do is they kind of hold you back from the more advanced stuff later on. So there's a lot of times when you're just driving around in bronze, early on it's fine, but at some point you're going to play and you want to, jump up, fly for the ball aerial. A lot of times I need to jump, I need to air roll, and I need to boost at the same time. And so having those all be thumb buttons from the same thumb is really hard for me. So what I did with my controls, this is not what everybody does, but I think it's my recommendation, is I'm using the bumpers and the triggers. This is the only game I've ever double triggered on, but I think you should do it. The important bit here is my boost is on my right shoulder. This is an Xbox controller. And my air roll and my handbrake are on my left shoulder. That means I have my first fingers on the shoulder buttons, my second fingers on the triggers. This leaves me a lot of room so that my X and B are now air roll left and air roll right, which people use when you're quite advanced. I do it a bit, but this in particular is extremely helpful for half flips, which I'll talk about in another video. If you have the opportunity to switch your controls now, I would do it. While you're learning, it doesn't really matter anyway. Even if you've been playing a long time, I would switch your controls if you need to. It takes a minute to get used to, but it will empower you to do more advanced stuff later. And that's what you need. Next, let's talk about some of the simple mechanics in the game that maybe they mention but probably don't teach you too much about. Obviously there's forward and reverse, but jumping is its own interesting thing. In Rocket League you have a lot more control than it seems. How hard you push the jump button changes how high you jump. So if I hold it in, I'm jumping up here. If I'm just tapping it, I just get little tiny jumps. Lots of things work that way. You also, I assume, have noticed that you have two jumps. In Rocket League, you can just double jump up like this to get a little higher. It's not actually the best way to get height if you have any boost, but it doesn't really matter. But if you're holding a direction, you flip. So you can side flip, you can front flip, back flip, etc. You can mix those and go diagonally, which is actually how you go a lot faster. Diagonal front flip is much quicker, and you can use your boost faster than regular front flip, but neither here nor there. Pay attention to how hard you're pushing the button, how long you hold it in to get different control so that you can get a good hit on the ball. The thing about the flip that you should know is you don't have it forever. I think you get like a second and a half. So if I jump off the wall, I can't flip anymore. None of my flips work. You kind of have to get used to it. There's not really a visual indicator, but you can't just boost for a while and then flip again. Unless you do some of the fancier stuff. That's well outside the scope of what we're talking about. Practice your jumps, practice your different flips. Flipping, especially forward in the direction you're trying to go, will give you a lot of speed. It's much better than boosting if you know where you're going. The downside if you're flipping is if you turn. And if you do try to turn, you'll land not aligned with your wheels, and it'll slow you down all the way. Another thing about just getting started in Rocket League is that driving's actually hard. Don't underestimate it. Your car turns at different rates, at different speeds. Boost impacts that a lot. Drifting impacts that a lot. It will take some time to get used to it. Try to be mindful about what you need to do and how to turn. There are lots of videos on this. I would play a bit and try to pay attention to how it's going, and then from there look up technical things like how to quickly turn around using the boost and your drift. Another interesting thing that's not super obvious is that the different cars you use matter in an interesting way. So in theory, they're pretty much the same. There's only a few hitboxes, which is where the physics actually touches your car, which is why, see how this ball doesn't actually touch the car model very accurately. That's why this happens. The cars, I mean, you could look it up for details. There's basically the octane shaped cars, which is this. There's the flat cars. There's this kind of like middle ground. There's the new Merc. Pick a car you like, because it's fun to just have the car you want. But that being said, if you're trying to get better about where you're making the touch on the ball, which is actually super important, picking a car like the Octane, which is why everyone uses the Octane, is something that matches the hitbox really closely, is gonna help you know where the ball is about to touch your car. The other ones are fun and cosmetics are fun, and I think especially early on fun is more important, but if you find yourself really confused about why you are or aren't touching the ball, consider practicing with a car of a different shape just to see how that impacts it. Probably the last thing I think for brand new players is that you're going to have the tendency to just drive at the ball wherever it is. You call it ball chasing. It's okay. It's a very normal first thing to do, and it's fun. When you've played a bit and you start to see the downsides of that, and you're ready to start thinking about what you do, you should start to learn about rotation and coming at the ball from goal side and all the things. But for now, if this is your first week playing Rocket League, ball chase to your heart's content and have a really good time. There are toxic people, there are Smurfs, that's a thing, but the number one thing you should be doing, especially if you're brand new, is trying to have a good time. This is a fun game. There's a lot to it. You can have fun when you start, and you can have fun 5 years later. Enjoy it and figure out what that means for you, and go for it. I think that's all I've got. Try to keep a short list. It's hard to pick where to start and where not. I'm hoping to meet some brand new players, maybe on Reddit, and go through some replays with them. I think that'll be interesting. Get a better perspective since I haven't started playing Rocket League in a really long time. Love to see what their experience is like and how to help. But try some of these things. Get your controls down. If you're brand new, just put some time in. Have a good time, like we talked about, but just practice driving, practice hitting the ball where you want. It takes a while. I expect you really aren't going to get anywhere for the first 50 hours at least. I'm at thousands of hours at this point. Pros are at tens of thousands of hours. There's a lot you can do. Don't stress too much about it. Just practice and try to be mindful or aware of what you're doing and how it's going. That's it. Have a really good time.